now here I am, literally going off a wing, hope, and a prayer, okay, and with no job, no plan, no real idea of what happens next. And of course, at first I am like torn apart, right? I am crying, I'm doing that whole thing. And I know it was around the time that I was going to families anyway. And I think this was towards like the beginning of December, if I'm not mistaken, or November. But it was like a beginning of the month. The entire process, in order for me to actually get my final paycheck, took almost a whole month. Took almost an entire month for me to get my last paycheck. Okay, but here I am without my final paycheck, without much money saved in the bank. Right now, at this time, and I want to pause here because this is going to be the only reason why, my only purpose with telling this story, or telling my journey is to help somebody else who may be coming behind me. Okay, and there's a few things that I did that I know was absolutely ridiculous. Right now, at the point that I am no longer employed, right, I was under a contract for $84,000 a year. Okay, now depending on who you talk to, you may talk to some people and that's a lot of money, right? For me at the time, that was a lot of money, right? But you may talk to other people and they may say, oh, $84,000, like what's that? Okay, at the time for me, $84,000 annually was a lot of money. Okay, so I have just been fired from this position for this $84,000 annual salary. Now, mind you, at the time, I am not married. I do not have children. Okay, and I am living well below my means. So some would say, okay, you've done everything correctly, right? You've done everything right. You got the job, right? You're single. You don't have any children. Girl, you must have been living it up. You're living well below your means. You must have been living it up. No, I was not. I barely had anything in savings. My credit was absolutely shot. And when I look back on it now, the problem that I see during that time frame in my life, and you guys have to hear me, and please be careful in your own lives. The problem that I saw with myself, even though I had the setup of a lifetime, what some people would consider, I had at that point, I had said yes to everybody else but me. I said yes to working like a dog for my employers. Okay, at the time, even though I was not married, right? I was in a whole full-blown situationship that I should have never been in. On and off situationship that I should have never been in. Okay, and as a single woman, okay, single woman without a husband, but also without the covering, the true covering of a father, I am left in the world exposed. Okay, so on multiple parts. For one, fathers, please hear me. It is so necessary, whether you are in the home, whether you were in the home, whether you weren't in the home, whether you are with your baby's mother, whether you are not with whatever the case may be, your children need you. They need you at whatever age, at whatever phase of life they're in. Here I am, right? Here I am, a young woman, a young suitable woman with a decent career in a position where I should have been able to either purchase a home or prepare myself to purchase a home or have investments and do all of those things. I was in a position to do that and had nothing to show for it. And I did not have the proper covering or the proper guidance to really know, hey girl, this ain't it. Right? Now, granted, there's a flip side to this story, okay? Because even though I may not have had the proper covering of a father, even though though I did not have the covering of a husband, I did have and had full knowledge of who Christ was. Now the flip side of this, and this is where I want our young folks to understand, young, old, whoever doing it. This is where I want you to understand the reason why playing with and dabbling in sin, okay, is not where it's at. A lot of people think that the Lord says certain things like abstain until marriage as a restriction. He doesn't say it as a restriction. He says it as a boundary. He says it as protection. He says it as a covering. So in that season and in that time for me, even though I wasn't out wilding in these streets, because I was not doing completely correct, I had lost the covering, right, that I would have had, even by God Almighty, because I had stepped outside of his will. And if I could be quite frank, okay, and I'm going to speak as blunt as I can, but not too blunt so I don't get flagged here on YouTube. However, I do want to make sure that our young folk, old folk, whoever folk know it, okay? If you are outside of marriage, stay off that Peter. Stay off that Peter. Stay off that Peter. Okay, and even though that's not what this particular video is about, it's important because I had the setup of a lifetime where I could have been prepared in my season of harvest, in my season of plenty, in my season of abundance. I could have been so very well prepared for the season that God already knew was coming. Please hear me. He had prepared me. He had given me the resources about 1,000,000 times over that I would need. He gave me even the good common sense to live well below my means. He gave me everything that I would need for the next season in my life. He had already given it to me, but I squandered it. I was not a good steward of it because my mind and my focus and my attention was somewhere else. Why does the Lord not want us to sin? Why is it that he gives us boundary? Why is it that he does that? Why? Because he's providing a sense of covering. He's providing a sense of direction. And when I stepped outside of that, I was unable to see, think, do, and act the way that was necessary in order to fully step into my next season. That is so incredibly important. Stay off that Peter. And for you, and for those of you who think that it's not that serious, that it's not that important, and I can go into it, but that would be a whole completely different video. It carries spirits. Okay, you are not just joining someone in bed, you are joining someone in spirit. Okay, it carries whatever spirit they have, whatever spirits they carry, it carries with them. Okay, so it's not just a one and done act. It carries when it comes to mindset and mentality. And for those who know that life, my little naive self don't even really know that. For those who know that life, they understand and they know which women to pray on. They know who they need to go get. At the time, my self-esteem was so low. Again, another time, another day, I will tell that story. But my self-esteem, my confidence was so low that the window and the door and the opportunity was there. I left it wide open. So again, in the time where now what I would consider calamity hits, I could have been well prepared for, I was not. I was lost. I was devastated. I was literally functioning off a wing, a hope, and a prayer. But here's the thing about that order. A lot of people, when they get down and out, they say, well, all I have left to do is pray. Please let me tell you, prayer is not the last thing. Prayer is not the last resort. Prayer should be your absolute first resort. It should be the very first thing you do. Lord, here I am. And I have no idea what direction to take next. Lord, I have failed you. Lord, I am sorry. Lord, I have misstewarded what you have given me. Lord, please give me the wisdom that I need to navigate this system. Repent and ask the Lord for what it is that you need. And that's exactly what I had to do in that season. When I tell you I got on my face like never before, this little muskrat that I had around me, up under me, sniffing, doing all those things, okay? Saying yes to money and all these things, and I'm just not even finna get into that. But had given, guys, all these people that I was able to give to in that season. It was so funny to me. It was so funny to me that when that dried up, so did our relationship. When that dried up, so did our so-called bond and connection. When that dried up, so did their time. Okay? I got on my face before the Lord and said, Lord, I need you. And I will tell you this, because of the way that I conducted myself, because of the way that I handled what he had given me, what he had provided, there was absolutely no good reason that I deserved an answer from him. A lot of us will go to the throne room of God so proudly, and not in a sense of proudly like this is my father, but in a sense of being entitled. So we will go to the throne room of God like he owes us something. And in this sense, I was so fully aware that he owed me absolutely nothing at all. He had given me everything that he ever needed to give me. But I went so humbly and I said, Father, I need your help. I need your help. And he began to work that thing. He began to work it for me. And when I tell you, God is so faithful, he is so good. And it didn't all unfold at one time, but I was not employed, not earning any income. And I was in prayer one day and trying to figure out, literally, there were so many things I was trying to figure out. Especially when it comes to this, there's this little muskrat, so many things I was trying to figure out. But I was in prayer one day and just asking God for wisdom, asking him for guidance on this business, on this idea or whatever. And I began to draw. Now, something you guys may not know about me is that I used to draw actually growing up. And sometimes what life will do to you is life will begin to diminish your gifts. You will allow people, you will allow things, you allow experiences, you allow circumstances, you will allow being so busy, that you begin to diminish some of the gifts that God has given you. So one of the things that I used to do when I was younger is I used to draw. And during this time, it's so funny that I actually returned to some of those things. And I was in prayer and I began to draw. And I drew this logo, right, which is now known as our business logo. But I drew this logo, and I knew what the letters were at first for this logo. I knew what the letters were, so I drew out the actual logo. Not in color or anything like that, but I drew out the logo. And I was just in prayer, and I was like, okay, Lord, I don't know what this means. And honestly, what I drew, and I still don't know the actual name for it now, but I'll find it and try to put it on the screen. But it's like the little leaf curvy things that they have. So I drew that out. I drew the letters, and I knew what the letters were, but I didn't have a name yet for this business, because at this point I'm like, okay, I have to go get under another company, right? But I didn't want to get under another company to work or be employed by that company. At this point, I had settled in my spirit that I was going to be starting my own business. Okay, starting my own business from scratch, 0 properties. There were so many legalities in this particular contract that I had signed, that of course I couldn't get any of their customers for the next 2 years. There was a bunch of things in there that I couldn't do. So I was literally starting from absolute 0. And I knew that they had the money and the resources to absolutely come after me. Should I have done anything out of line, right? As a matter of fact, before I get into how I came up with the company name and all that, one of the things this company did whenever I finally left and did all of that, they actually had an attorney send me a letter. So I'm not sure if you guys remember from one of the previous videos, as a part of this contract of a lifetime that I received, there was also a stipulation in there that if either one of us were to like if they were to fire me before the contract ended, or if I were to leave before the contract ended, then we will owe the other 6 months of pay up front, at least 6 months of pay up front. So this is a part of the contract. Well, they had their attorney send me a letter stating that I had left the company. Okay, that I had left the company, and that now I owed this company this 6 months of pay up front. And at the time, I'm not sure quite how much that kind of worked out to, but I know it was like, I was making $84,000. So whatever that is. And at that point, I am absolutely devastated, because I'm like, for one, I cannot pay them. For two, you told me to leave the premises, or you were going to call the cops on me for trespassing. That is a firing to me. So how are you going to say that? So there was kind of some back and forth there. And this whole time, I'm still not necessarily ill-willed against them. I just want it to be over. I have to figure out what the heck I'm going to do for a job to keep a roof over my head. And you're contacting me about 6 months of pay for something that you initiated. Like, completely did not understand that. So anyway, so they had their attorneys reaching out and all of this stuff. And I still was requesting a meeting, doing all of this. The owners messaging me like, oh, you still haven't, give me your plan of what you're doing. I know you're going to try to scam us. Give me your plan of what you're doing and where you're going and who. And I'm just like, what plan? There was no plan in the first place. Like, I can't give you a plan that I don't have. And once you get that over, we can have a meeting. I requested a meeting, never got a meeting. Going back and forth. So then it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, enough is enough, right? You got to be able to understand who's in your circle, who's around you, who can assist you with certain things, right? And even though I did not have the funds for an attorney representation, I had an attorney representation within my circle. Okay. So I had always been, up until this point, somebody who didn't really ask for much help, didn't really want to burden people, that sort of thing. And I got to such a point where I'm just like, I have to ask for help. There's like nothing else I can do. I have to ask for help. And that's one of the things too that I learned throughout this time frame, is that even though I was the giver, okay, in my circle, in my group, for people who knew me, I was the giver. I was the person that other people can count on. If I could do it, I would do it, that sort of thing. And when you are that person for your circle, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whatever the case may be, when you are the one always giving, sometimes it's really tough for you to put yourself in a position to be vulnerable enough for somebody else to return that favor. Okay? It had come to a point where God had put me in a position where he says, no, you need to learn to ask for help. And this was one of those situations where I'm like, not only do I need to learn to ask for help, I don't have a choice but to ask for help, because there's no way I can meet these terms. Okay. So anywho, and I won't say who it was exactly, because I'm not sure, what the actual requirements are for representation and all that. But I had attorney representation right within my circle, and the Lord blessed it so where they put that thing together and got a final response out to this company with a bunch of different things in it, and one of them including, of course, I am an African American employee and you have fired me unjustly. Okay, so instead of us going there, how about we all just leave it where it's at? And to say the very least, there was not much conversation or not much after that. It just was what it was. Let her do her thing. If she steals our customers, clearly, okay, we're coming for that. But other than that, we're going to leave it alone. Okay, so all of that happened. So I'm already at a point where I'm just like, okay, I know they can and they will come after me. I'm literally at zero. There's nothing else. So Lord, really help. So anywho, so God begins to help me with this entire vision for a business. So as I was stating before, I was in prayer. I drew out the logo, but I didn't have the name for the business yet. And that was something that I had to just continue to pray on and just like, okay, Lord, what is the name? What is the name? During this time, I feel like God really had opened up to me the story of Gideon in the Bible. And at the time, what he was sharing with me is that you are Gideon. You are Gideon. I'm sending you out on a mission, but I can't have you take everybody. Everybody can't go. Everybody can't go. There's going to be some cutting. There's going to be some pruning. There's going to be some dwindling down. So at the end of the day, you won't be able to say it was anybody else, but nobody else but God. So I'm like, okay, Lord. With the name, I guess, acronym that I had drew out on this logo, it fit perfectly for the name of our company. Gideon Property Services is what we wound up, what I wound up naming this company. And I'm just like, okay, Lord, you've unfolded the story to me. I have a logo. I have a name. I have no business. I have no business. Now, during this time, God had began connecting me with just people and realtors and just different things like that. And I did wind up finding a company that I could put my license with. Because as a licensed agent, not a broker, as a licensed agent, I had to be able to hang my license somewhere in order to do business. So I went and I met with this particular broker, and I didn't go into all the details of what happened, but just let them know I'm in a transition right now. I was very honest I'm not looking to go to another real estate company or another real estate firm. However, I am looking to hang my license for the period of time that it takes for me in order to get my broker's license. I want to be able to do property management, and I just want to know if I'm able to do it here and still function under my company name, so we had to work out all the details for that. And this particular real estate company did not have a property management division, which was beneficial and then not beneficial at the same time. It was beneficial because, of course, I didn't want to impede on anybody else's business, knowing that it was just my place that I was just passing through, right? However, it also was not good with me starting out with 0 properties, because I still had to build everything myself. Like, their company was not known for property management. They hadn't done that before. They weren't interested in really doing that before. So I didn't necessarily have leads. I didn't have, anybody to work with me to say, hey, here's how you do this and do it successfully. So I did that so I could at least function and operate as a business. I said, okay, Lord, what next? And what is so funny to me is that this particular, I'm not sure if you guys remember that I said before, right before I left, the meeting that I was asking to have, I had actually developed a different business model for the company that I was at. I had developed a different business model in order to present to them, right? So they can turn things around in their own company and fix some of the issues and the complaints and things like that I heard customers saying that they had, and possibly put them in a space where they could keep their current customers, but then also take the business in a healthier direction, right? Instead of them crashing and burning. That it seemed to be the direction they were going in. And of course, with everything that's going on, never got a chance to present that. And then that's when God brought it back up to me. He said, I've already given you everything you need. I'm like, what? I've already given you everything you need. And I literally look at the plan, all the package options, all of those things were completely set. All of those things were completely set. And to this day, that was in 2017. I have been using the same business plan, models, package options, and everything ever since. Never had to turn back. And I say all that to say, for one, trust God in every season of your life. And you have to trust him in every season of your life, because you don't know what the season of life is. You think you know. You really do. You think you know what season of life you're in, but you truly have no idea. So you have to trust God in every season of your life, so you know that you're fully prepared for every season of your life. birthday, but I'm getting to the office, and the young lady who is going to be doing activities with Avery, she is here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get them set, and then I'm gonna hop back on for the other part. Talk to y'all soon.